Hi, I'm Andy Friedman, and I run the group called S.N.A.P, which is Survivors of Narcissistic Abuse and Exploitative Personalities. And I'm going to answer a question that I hear from time to time, people wanting to know, how do I tell if someone is toxic? Or what's the difference between a toxic relationship versus an abusive relationship? Well, you know that you are in a toxic relationship, or you're in a toxic friendship, or you're encountering a toxic person when you feel like that you are tiptoeing around them, you're walking on eggshells. You're not quite sure how they're going to respond to things or which version of them that you're going to encounter. But you also feel like you can't quite be yourself entirely, that you're censoring yourself, that you can't be all the way vulnerable. You also can't voice your disagreement with them. If you don't agree on something, you feel like you probably should just keep that to yourself. You usually dread being around them. Like you get a sinking feeling when it's time to spend time with them, or when the phone rings, or when you get a text, you have like a sinking feeling. A lot of times after you've had an encounter with this person, you have to decompress by triangulating with someone else. So you call up another friend or someone that's a trusted individual that you confide in, and you have to decompress and vent to them like, oh my God, you're never going to guess what happened now. This person is going to be putting you in the position of co-signing their bullshit. They're going to want you to enable them or affirm them by telling them that things aren't their fault and that they handled everything properly, and that, yes, they are a victim and someone is mistreating them, and that their situation is not their situation didn't come about because of their decision making and because of their choices, but instead that because they are the victim of someone else. Or a mean boss, or coworkers that are horrible, or family members that actually expect them to live up to their responsibilities. This person's usually complaining about things that we wouldn't necessarily complain about. We might be actually grateful for the circumstance, but they're going to complain about the circumstance. You notice that they like to stir up shit. They're shit stirrers. They like to drop little pieces of information that might cause conflict. And they usually do this with an air about them that it's like they're just being themselves, like that they're being their authentic self. They're just going to tell it like it is, and they're going to just be super honest about stuff. But actually what they're doing is they're inciting drama and chaos by doing the opposite of peacekeeping, I guess, which would be more like what we would do. We would not say something to cause an argument or a conflict, whereas they would definitely say something to cause conflict. In some ways, you wind up feeling responsible for them, responsible for their well-being, that you are obligated to listen or help them out or be there for them, or they also will ask you for favors and to do things that are, maybe asking a little bit much, but at the time doesn't seem like out of the realm of what you would do for a friend. But then it becomes more than what you expected. They go past what you agreed to, and then they don't say thank you. They don't seem grateful. A lack of gratitude is there quite often, you'll notice. They look to you to make them feel better. So instead of nurturing themselves and taking care of themselves and seeking professional help for things, or dealing with a situation in a healthy way, they're going to look to you to soothe them, make them feel better in whatever way. They're going to call you when they're feeling like that. They need attention, they need affirmation, and they expect you to make them feel the way they want to feel. They drain you. When you're done spending time with this person or talking to this person, you usually have to bring your shoulders back down from here, you really have tension built up as the result of the interaction. You feel like you've been drained, and they don't charge you up. They're not contributing to your well-being. You don't feel necessarily better as the result of your interaction, but they're always walking away with something because they're usually there to take. They are sometimes very judgy. They judge others pretty harshly, but you better not judge them. And they'll often accuse people of judging them, even though they're not being judged. The person who's supposedly judging them is really just expecting them to live up to regular, basic human being stuff. But they're going to be accusatory and act like that someone is judging them, but they're constantly judging other people. They use people, and you see them. They will share with you their plots and schemes that don't involve you. And you think, oh, well, they might be a little bit, off or a little bit crazy, but they're not that way with me. And so it's okay. But you hear stories of what they're doing in other relationships. They share with you, the things that they've, the plots that they've hatched. And you listen because it's entertaining. They have lots of really good stories. And you think, oh, well, it's okay, again, because they're not doing it to me. But eventually, if they haven't, they will be doing that to you if they aren't already. And they're most likely triangulating with someone else about you. You kind of don't know what to expect from this person sometimes. You walk away with a feeling of, wow, like what just happened? The difference here between a toxic person versus an abusive person. So with narcissists or narcissistic abuse, I say that we're left with a feeling of awe, like our jaw is on the floor. We're in shock from the behavior. It's like, it's so nuts that it can't be happening. And we almost talk ourselves out of the reality because it just can't possibly be true because it's just so audacious. There's an audacity to the behaviors. With toxic people, it's more just of, wow, like that's weird, or that doesn't seem right. It's not quite awe, but it's more just like, wow, that was an interesting exchange. I don't feel quite right about that. They're always the victim, and they expect you to take sides. And they like to highlight that feature of your relationship, that you understand them more than other people, and that they know that you're on their team. And, they're really always kind of checking to make sure that you're on their side or not. And if they catch a whiff that you might have an opinion that deviates from their, the narrative that they're trying to control, because that's what a lot of this is about, is controlling the narrative, then they're going to lash out at you somehow. Or you'll just give in because you don't want to get their feathers ruffled. You just go, oh, yeah, you did the right thing. And sure, yeah, what a jerk. I shouldn't have done that, blah, blah, blah. Instead of going, well, it sounds like that because you were late to work, like for the 6th day in a row, that you incurred a consequence, and that's why your boss said you can't be late anymore. It's not because he's out to get you. I mean, you better never ever say anything like that to a toxic person, because and then you're going to be in trouble. And instead of being a friend, you're a foe, because you're either with them or against them. They don't seem to care about you. So when you talk to them, they're always focused on them and what's going on with them. And they might give you the obligatory, like, oh, so what's going on with you? Or how are you? And you notice that you might only get like 2 or 3 sentences out, and then they're on to their stuff again. So you never quite get to, you don't get to process your life with them. They're just processing their life with you. They're always in crisis mode. Everything's a crisis. There's always something that's just caving in that needs your attention right now. And it's because of something that's out of their control completely. And, they're always pointing the finger out here. They lie. And this might be similar to what I was saying before about maybe they're just telling you stories about things they've lied about with other people. And so you think, oh, well, since we're really close, they don't do those things to me. But, you know, they tend to be a little bit dishonest, or they really exaggerate things. It's everything's always the worst. So that kind of plays into the crisis mode, because we're going to magnify the severity of things. We're going to misread other people. They usually assume the worst about others, that other people have like a negative intent or an intent to, well, it's interesting because they kind of assume that people are out to get them or out to use them, or that they're going to be discarded, that they're not being respected, and that, well, they kind of have this instinct that other people are treating them the way they treat other people, is really what it comes down to. And that's just not the case. So they walk around with kind of like a little bit of, they're ready to jump into conflict. They're going to tell people off. They're going to storm away. They're going to slam a door. They're going to throw something. Or they're going to stonewall you and do the silent treatment. There's that tactic as well. So with an abusive relationship, I mean, toxic is abusive as well. But when we're talking about abusive personality types and abusers, this is a whole nother level of interaction, that you really and truly are being targeted by someone, and they're doing things to you that sometimes are illegal. They're stealing from you. They're harming you physically. They're exploiting you with finances. That's stealing, but also just being parasitic and living off of you. They're exploiting you sexually. They are making you question your identity. You're becoming a person that you know you aren't. You're engaging in activities or behaviors that do not match your character or your personality. They're isolating you from your support system. So an abusive relationship is kind of ratcheting up the same features that you would find in a toxic relationship, only this person has a hold of you in a way that you feel like you can't get away from them, or you know, that you could possibly fix it if you just started acting right. So you really start questioning yourself a lot more than you would in, say, like a toxic relationship. In a toxic relationship, we kind of already have an idea that this person is just really bringing you a lot of stress, and they're not integrated into your life in a way that makes it so difficult to remove them from your life or to steer clear of them. In an abusive relationship, they've wormed their way in to live with you, to be in your inner circle. Sometimes we don't have a choice about the people that we're around, because they're our family members, and for whatever reason we rely on them, or we haven't reached a point in our own development that we're willing to cut people out of our lives entirely. You know, blood is thicker than water and all that. There's a lot of people that really have an emotional tie, because that's the way we've been raised, and that's what we've been taught, that even if someone, if someone's a family member, then they're family no matter what. And of course, that's a belief that I don't subscribe to. So sometimes we don't have a choice, because it's a workplace and it's our boss, and we don't have the luxury of just up and getting a different job, or they're your coworker. And so if that's going on and you're stuck in a situation with a toxic person and they're making your life a living hell, just understanding more about their personality and how they work can really be a relief, because it helps you navigate the relationship a little bit better, and you know more what to expect and what not to expect. So for example, just knowing that the other person really truly actually does not care about you. Just because they're a human being doesn't mean they have the same human features that you do. And just knowing that sometimes can kind of quiet some of those thoughts that, what is going on? Why? I'm not doing anything wrong here. I haven't even done anything that most anybody else would have a problem with, but yet this person seems to always have a problem with me, and I don't understand why. Just knowing that that is just their personality, and that it has absolutely nothing to do with you, and that's how they walk through life. That's how they are in all of their relationships and all of their encounters. They're carrying those tactics with them everywhere they go. So it's basically not personal and it has nothing to do with you. And just knowing that sometimes can help you feel better in those circumstances that you can't really change right now. If you have any questions about toxic relationships or abusive relationships, please send us an email